Hi, I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of today's newsletter is going to be how to get women to approach, chase, and seduce you. Well, this particular email is from a 31-year-old viewer. He says he's a third year anesthesia student, and he's about to graduate in a few months. And he shares a success story of how he created the conditions in his life where a hot classmate who happened to be, I guess, be a year younger than him approached him. In other words, put herself in his orbit, started sitting next to him, started pursuing him, started talking to him. Eventually, he got her number. He even let her start reaching out, and then he made a date, and they ended up hooking up on the first date. And then about a week later, he reached out to make a second date, and she was excited to hear from him. Said she was excited, obviously, that he's reaching out. And then he noticed that she was kind of slow to respond to his messages, and so now he's getting a little like, So this is a good email just to show, because he really did a good job of starting things off and being totally indifferent. And his inaction really turned her on and made her try harder to get his attention. So it's a really great email for starting things off, starting the courtship off, and creating the conditions where women notice you and they come and try to get your attention. Because men who understand 3% man, that is typically where we live. When you have choice with women, this is your reality. You're used to women hitting on you. You're used to women trying to get your attention. And quite frankly, this is where all men should be, as long as they do the work and obviously they apply the things that are in the book. And so before I get into this particular guy's email, I want to talk about the members area. So I've got exclusive members only content on YouTube, on Spotify, and on my website. If you go in the video description of this particular video, you'll have the links to there. And so what we're doing is I'm doing a couple extra video newsletters a week. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be posting right now 2 a week. And we've got a 3% man study group with the girls and Chunky. And so they've all read the book. And what we're doing is we're going through it. Just to give you an example, we've done 2 film sessions with Caroline and Jade on this. And so they went through, they marked up the book, they highlighted passages. And so we're really doing an in-depth discussion of the book and the contents, the techniques, the strategies, the things I teach. And so the girls are challenging me on things. Maybe they troll me a little bit on some of the things, but it just really creates the conditions where, from a woman's perspective, they can challenge me on why I teach what I teach and why the principles are what they are in the book, just as another tool to help you guys better learn the book, 3% Man. And we're also going to be doing one for mastering yourself. Like the other day when we were filming, I talked to Caroline. She's about halfway through mastering yourself. Chunky's working on it. And so my goal is to get everybody through the books, and we're going to do an in-depth discussion. And just based on like the 2 film sessions that I had with Caroline and Jade, we filmed for almost 3 hours, about an hour and a half, on 2 different days. And we're like at page 25. And so we'll probably end up with 25, 30 videos on 3% Man alone, just with the girls. Then I'll probably do a separate one with Chunky, and I've got another guy that's done real well with my book. You'll be meeting him in another month or so. And so there'll be a lot of members content around that. Plus, you guys have been asking for like the full viewer podcast when I sit down with the girls and we answer your questions that you have submitted to us. Normally we film for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and we get anywhere from like 8 to 12 or 15 individual videos from those sessions. And what you guys have been asking for is where can we just watch the whole film session? And so we've got those in the members area for you. We've got the additional, I'm doing 2 extra video coaching newsletters a week, just like the ones that I'm doing here. And there'll also be some special videos that I'll do in there, other podcast things that'll have exclusive members only content. So if you go to the video description underneath this particular video, just click show more. There'll be a link that you click to join my paying members on YouTube, or if you prefer Spotify, you can go join there. And if you would like to join at my website, there is a link in the description that will take you there as well. And so you'll get the additional email analysis if you choose to subscribe in the website. And if you really like myself and what we do, subscribe all three places if you're that big or that huge of a supporter. So just want to tell you guys all about the members content, because people have been asking me to do this stuff for years, and we're finally doing it. And we've got a lot of videos uploaded already in the past weeks. So there's a lot of content for you guys to catch up on. So with that said, let's go through our regularly scheduled email. He says, "Good afternoon, Coach. My name is Bob. I'm 31, and I'm a third-year anesthesia student about to graduate this coming May. On my spare time, I watch and read your book, and I practice your work on nurses when the chance is right." So what's interesting is when you look at, because, I've been doing this 20 years at this point, and so I've dealt with a lot of people that have had cheating in their lives, and the female nurses are one of the groups of careers where women cheat a lot. Freaky things go on in the hospitals. A lot of promiscuity, a lot of people cheating on their significant others. And so if you're dating a nurse, proceed with caution. He says, "Several months ago, I noticed that a student from the class the year below me started sitting next to me during my morning coffee breaks." So what women do, they come and they put themselves in your orbit. But typically they're not going to ask you out. You still have to be the man. You still have to be direct and decisive, get to the point, make a definite day, definite date, definite time where you're going to get together on a date. It's up to you to ask for her number or to give yours out. And this guy says, "Again, I always remember what you teach, and I don't lose my head when a pretty girl shows up. We started talking about anesthesia and she asked for some advice since she knows I'm about to graduate." That's another thing. When a woman likes you, she typically tends to ask you for advice because she admires you. She respects you. She looks up to you. She seeks out your counsel. And so when women do that, it typically is another indicator that they're interested in you and they respect you. He says, "Weeks went by and I started noticing that she would mention that she was single, lived nearby, and had no roommates." So if a woman's doing that, it's like she's making it really obvious. But if you think from this perspective, what if this guy already had more than enough women in his life? What if he was already getting his balls sucked dry and he just didn't need any more tacos to deal with? He'd be in no rush to make anything happen because he's already got more than enough. And that works to his advantage, as you'll see. He said, "She would say this in a way that didn't sound obvious, but would look at me in the eye to see what I'd do with it." Yeah, because she's trying to figure out, does this guy like me or what's he doing? It's a scientific fact that women are more attracted to men whose feelings are unclear. And this guy's doing nothing. He's just showing up and going to his class. And he's acting like a guy whose balls are already on empty and he doesn't have time for any other. He's nice, he's respectful, but the last thing he needs is another bearded taco in his life. He says, "The next week, she sat next to me, and I asked her for her phone number, and she quickly had me put on our contacts and texted me shortly after to make sure I had her number too. Again, I had this mentality of I'll wait until she texts me, and a couple of weeks went by until she did. So she asked for his number, texts him back her number, and she's doing all the work. Why get in the way of her fun? She texted me asking about something school related, and as a wise man once said, if a woman reaches out, assume she wants to see you. So I asked her out for a drink on a day that I was already in the area practicing anesthesia, and I invited her out at a time when I was getting out and told her to show up at a nice Irish local pub at 6 p.m. The girl showed up and looked gorgeous. I could tell she had spent some time looking good for me. Yeah, she was worried about your approval. She was seeking your attention and your approval and trying to seduce you. Because again, she's already hinted, hey, I got no roommates. There'll be nobody there to interrupt us. She might as well have said it that way. But when a woman's hinting like that, it's like, she's making it obvious. He says, I had 2 beers and I didn't want to get drunk for many reasons, including the fact I still have to drive home. So I paid for the drinks and I paid for the both of us, and she immediately said that she will pay next time. I didn't think much of it, and when we get out of the bar, I offered to walk her home. And by the time we get to her door, she asks if I'm okay to drive, to which I tell her that I'm a bit tipsy, but that I'll just stop somewhere to get some water. And she says, oh, I can give you some water. Do you want to come in? Notice how he just kind of, well, I'm going to go get some water. I'm going to take off. He's like, oh, I can give you some water. Can I have a hot beef injection? I immediately gave her a smirk and accepted. And as soon as we walk in, she gives me some water and sits next to me in the couch, once again putting herself into his orbit. And I had already been up for 14 hours and didn't feel like dicking around too much. This guy had wound her up for weeks by doing nothing. She's inviting him into the house for some water, but the reality is she's making it easy for a seduction to happen. But still, you've got to be the one to pick up on the signs and the signals and make the move. And so notice what happens next. So I tell her to get it over with and kiss me. I'm pretty sure I read that in a book somewhere. That exact phrase, as a matter of fact. He says, this to me seemed like I had just released a beast, because she mounted me in the couch and started ripping my clothes off. Oh, you poor baby. I'm sure you suffered right through that. But you can see that this was like over many weeks of the anticipation building up and him not really doing anything. And again, he's acting like a guy whose balls are already dry. He doesn't need any more. He doesn't need any more feminine energy in his life. He's already got enough. And look how aggressive she's become. Now, a dude that ain't had a date in 10 years, he's going to be giving off a completely different vibe, and this is never going to happen to him. He said, needless to say, we took it to the bedroom. The following day, she messages me and mentions the second beer again. I didn't make the second date then because I told her I was traveling to see some family for spring break. I would have said, I'd love to. I'll get in touch when I get back from my trip. That's all I would have said. Because you're not telling her when exactly you'll be back. You just, when I get back from my trip next week or a week after or in a couple weeks, we'll definitely do that. I'll get in touch. He says, during my entire time there, roughly 7 days, we didn't speak. I couldn't shake the feeling of having her think that I had just used her, but I didn't see the point in just texting. Well, she texted you after all. The only thing, I would have done differently was like, man, I'd love to get that second beer. It's like, we'll definitely do it when I get back in town. When I get back, I'll hit you up. He says, texting is just for setting dates. And today I messaged her after 1 week and she seemed excited over text, but was taking a bit too long to reply. Don't get impatient. It's just like tennis. Hit the ball over the net. It's like, don't get mad that the kitty cat is a little flaky and a little indecisive and its behavior is unpredictable. It's like, that's just the way they are. You can't take it personally. You can't get butthurt. You can't get perturbed. He says there could either be another dude or dudes in the picture, she's truly busy with school, or I simply did not manage to leave a long-lasting impression. What are your thoughts, Coach? Make the fucking date. Hang out. Have fun. Hook up. Your job is to create an opportunity for sex to happen. To hang out, to have fun, to hook up. She texted you back, but she's taking her time. There probably is another guy. Maybe there is another guy. As far as you texting her after you had sex, she texted you the next day, and so you spoke the next day, so you shouldn't feel guilty about that at all. And even if she does get mad or upset, that's one of the reasons why you behave this way. Because you want a girl who's easygoing, easy to get along with, doesn't give you a hard time. And because think about it. It's like if you call her up and she seems to be happy to hear from you, but she's taking a little long to reply, you don't get pissed off. You don't get mad. You don't get perturbed. You just constantly stay calm. You just assume, she'll get back to me when she can. She must be busy. And just you have that attitude. It's like not a big deal. Because if you don't make a big deal out of it, she won't make a big deal out of it. And again, you don't really know this girl's. Who knows? In between that week, an ex-boyfriend could have come back in the picture. Or another guy who she was hooking up with that went sideways before she got in touch with you and you started hooking up. So it's like, you don't know what you don't know. Bottom line is just make the next date and then get off the phone. Whenever she does reply, just say, hey, I want to see when you can get together for that second beer. What's your schedule like? And come from a place of presupposing, of course she wants to see you. That's all I would do. It's like, again, typically when a woman's real hot and heavy initially and then she starts to get cold, usually it means there's another guy in the picture. And especially if she's hot, in this case, in the medical field, they tend to be more promiscuous. It's just the way they are. They tend to cheat more too. I didn't make them that way. It's just, maybe it's because you're dealing with death and end of life stuff. And so they've, just like people that serve in the military, you got to kind of, you're dealing with death and bodily fluids and things that most people can't relate to. So make the date, live in the moment, don't worry about it. And once she starts pursuing you and reaching out, every couple of days, just use that as an opportunity to set the next date. So if you got a question or a challenge and you'd like to get my help, go to understandingrelationships.com, click the products tab at the top of your screen on any page of my website, and book a coaching session with yours truly. Until next time, I will talk to you soon.